And they could have got the POWs back. All they had to do was to pay ransom. The North Koreans held back half of the prisoners, about 600 of them, in order to collect reparations for all the bombing the Americans had done to North Vietnam. And so they were willing to give the prisoners back if we would pay $3 or $4 billion in ransom. And of course, by that time, Nixon was too weak to deliver the money. Watergate was consuming him. And once a lie gets in place, it can't be undone. It wasn't possible for the next president to say, hey, look, we can get, they do have our prisoners, and we can get them back for a little bit of money. So once a lie is in place, everyone ends up defending it. Even the Reagan administration ended up defending the claim that all the prisoners were back. So here we see a government that lies through its teeth about its prisoners that it abandoned and could have gotten back for very little money. So why do we believe the government tells us the truth about anything? And why do we think the media would possibly serve the people by delivering the truth when they prevented Schranberg from ever publishing his account? I mean, he had to sit on this account for years and years until finally it got out in some out-of-the-way place. And now it's become news thanks to Ron Unz, the publisher of the American Conservative, who's making an issue out of it. And, of course, you've made an issue out of it. And so what I think might be hopeful about it is that it makes people see if the government will lie about this, they'll lie about 9/11. They'll lie about Kennedy's assassination. In fact, they lie about everything, don't they, Alex? They lie about the unemployment rate. They lie about the inflation rate. They lie about the bank bailout. What does the government not lie about?
Well, here's another example. I mean, I had a congressman on more than 10 years ago from Virginia who was upset. About 6 years ago, I had a member of the Australian Parliament on who was upset. It was in the Australian news. They were saying there's a secret UN database of all our kids' blood. The government's been taking the blood since 1971, 72. It was a worldwide program in Western countries. And they put it in a database, and I would have these people on and read the documents, and listeners wouldn't believe me. Now it's all over the news. Oh, guess what? The Pentagon's got your blood if you're 38 years old or younger. That's how criminal this group is and how this national security state basically does whatever they want. Then imagine that, Dr. Roberts. For 38 years, from Australia to Canada, from England to the U.S., they take our blood to put it in a government database, and now they announce, guess what? We're going to have a global DNA database, and we already have your blood. I mean, it's just everything is a conspiracy, basically.
It does look that way, doesn't it, Alex?
It does. I mean, it's incredible.
But see, the one advantage of this conspiracy now has been blown wide open. And therefore, it may help make people aware that the other conspiracies are true, too.
Well, exactly. Expanding on that briefly, I mean, your point is well taken, and it's central. It's not just that they did this. It's the 30 years of cover-ups and not letting Pulitzer Prize winners ride on it. And now that story is as big as the POW story, that you have a giant group of people in media and government who would work together to leave a bunch of men to die. I mean, it's why?
Right. And, of course, the same group, the same people are doing the same thing now. They're leading us deeper into wars, deeper into confrontation with nuclear armed powers. The evil is loose, as you said. Evil is loose in the United States. It's got an iron grip on the government, and probably on government at most levels, in most places. So it is a very serious situation, and it remains to be seen if the people wake up, or enough of them wake up, and if they do, whether they have the capability of doing anything about it, or whether they're just going to be pawns that are continued to be sacrificed so that a very small group of elites who control the government can achieve some agenda of their own.
Well, sir, let's continue and talk about how big this story is and how important. Maybe go over some of the sections. Antiwar.com's probably got 15 articles about it and documents. The Nation Institute has them. The Conservative, the American Conservative has it. And we're getting it all up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Stay there, sir. I'm glad you contacted us about this. Thank you. Alexander Cockburn, former L.A. Times senior writer. Yeah, he's got an article out today on anti-war saying sometimes conspiracy theories are true. Look, they just call it a conspiracy theory when you say that they're lying. I mean, it wasn't a conspiracy theory in 1964 when people started saying our ships weren't attacked, that was staged, the Gulf of Tonkin. It was in the San Diego newspaper. We've gone and gotten the microfilm that sailors came back and said, we weren't attacked, it's all a lie. It was in the newspaper, but then it becomes a rumor. Oh, I heard it was staged. Well, see, now it's declassified. After 40-plus years, on the anniversary of it in 2004, 40-plus, I guess that's the, 40 anniversary, they declassified that they staged it. Going back to Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. As you said, though, the fact that you have such a huge cover-up shows that they've got a lot of willing people that will be part of this evil. Talk about that, Dr. Roberts, but also, why would they want to lie and not get our troops back?
Okay, those are all good questions. First, let me say that one of the many important contributions Schranberg makes is he shows how the government lies. He shows the technique, how they do it, how they get rid of conclusive evidence. And so that itself is very revealing, and your listeners should read just to see how the government goes about burying the truth. We
got plenty of time. Boil it down.
Well, the specific examples are given by Schranberg, and it's best for them to read. Now, to get to your questions, interestingly enough, there were two American defense secretaries, James Schlesinger, who was actually one of my graduate professors in economics, and Melvin Laird, who both testified under oath to Congress that men were left behind. So even when two defense secretaries, and of course Melvin Laird was the Secretary of Defense during the Nixon period when the Vietnam War was wound down. So he certainly would know, and Schlesinger came not long after. So we have two defense secretaries who did testify to Congress that men were left behind, but Congress didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to do anything about it. And there are a number of defense secretaries, as Schranberg shows, who come into office who just immediately take up the lie, because their notion is, it's my career, I'm serving my career, and I'm not going to go against whatever the line is.
And who cares if men are still rotting and being used as slaves, which has been confirmed. There's some still alive, being worked to death as slaves, and these fat, lazy, evil congressmen, just they're pigs.
Pigs, they're the scum of the earth. In fact, the United States government is the scum of the earth. The worst people in the country are in the government. They're not the criminals out there. They're not even the terrorists. The worst people are in the government. And that is another reason, I think, that Schranberg's story is so explosive, because Americans don't want to come to grips with that. It's too much of a demand on their emotional strength and their intellectual strength. And so it's something that people want to keep under the covers. Now, I think the reason the lie got started was that, the Washington Post was doing a job on Nixon with Watergate. He was trying to wind down the war while Watergate was devouring him. And so he just didn't have any clout, and he couldn't deliver the money to get the prisoners back. And so he had to say we had them all back, that the war's over and we have everybody back. He couldn't say, hey, the war's over and we've left all these people, because he would be blamed, not the Washington Post, not those two reporters, Bernstein and Woodward, not the Congress. He would be blamed, and he was already in terrible hot water about Watergate. So he said, we have everybody back. Well, once the lie is in place, how do you get the lie out of place? Because by now everyone's committed to it. The Congress is committed to it. The media is committed to it. Everyone is committed to the lie. It's just like 9/11. Look how much evidence has come out after the 9/11 Commission report, which proves that the whole thing was totally different than...
You've just hit on the key there. I just had another epiphany. That's right. They have a mass hoax. They tell you what the story is, and then everyone commits, and the average American says, I'm not going to believe I'm being lied to, because if this is a lie, everything's a lie. And once they've got you I guess by degrees, you become part of the evil, and now we're just a huge culture of lies. Dr. Roberts' long segment coming up. This was a short segment. Continue breaking down this central point that you just made. I mean, it's like getting your arm caught in a sausage machine. It's just sucking us all in, and now we have to, go along with every lie, because our government isn't bad. They're good, and that allows the evil to grow.